Hey everybody! Today we're going to learn how to dye yarn.
So we are making dye for our unicorn farts. So unicorn farts requires brilliant yellow in the combination. So what we're actually going to have to do, since my bottle is empty, we're going to make brand new dye. So if you come around here, usually what I do is I just take a container, I tear it so that it marks 0 grams, and I'm monitoring the grams. So what you'll find is with the dyes, you're doing what's called a 1% concentration. So for 10 grams of dye, you have 1,000 milliliters of water. So that's what we're doing in this case, is we're measuring out the dye. Now, my containers are 4 normal containers, so they're 4,000 milliliters. So I know to do 4 times whatever a recipe normally calls for. So in this case, we're going to tear to 0, and always put on some sort of protection. This is not the safest, but this is what we're doing. And we're just going to go ahead and keep dropping some dye in there, and then you're going to monitor. It's going to go up to 40. So 40 is what we're looking for. There it is. All right. And once we have 40 in there, that's good to go. We're now going to transfer this to here. So I have a funnel, just so we don't make a mess, because Lord knows I make enough messes. And we're going to go ahead and add some water. Now, once this is wet, I'm comfortable taking this down. The point is this dye is not good for your lungs, so in powder form, it's easier to access the air. Once the water's in there, it's not going to get into the air as easy. Therefore, I feel more comfortable taking this down. So we're just going to go ahead and put this in. And we'll just fill it up to wherever it gets. I got this whole bottle to fill. I'm not worried about it. And then I'm going to take a spoon, and we're just going to mix it. Get that dye powder at the bottom to absorb. Now, I find that yellow is the hardest color to get to work with the, ironically, because it's the one that goes and connects with the yarn easier. But what you'll see is it doesn't, it gets all like pasty.
Dissolve.
So we're just going to go ahead and pour our first bit. Probably pick the worst one to work with, but you know what, we'll work. Oh, there we go. All right, well, that was easy. It went in. We can always shake it. We're going to do it again. And the whole point now is just to get the powder out of my container, which might take a few times. So once we get near the bottom, what we're going to do is, you can see it's still in there. I still got to get it out, but I need to start adding acid, because if I don't add acid, the color will not stick to the yarn. This is basically like your glue. So you can see just Heinz, vinegar, nothing special. But I got it at Costco. And great deal at Costco if they still sell it. And then I'm just going to go ahead and measure out 2 cups of vinegar for this whole container. And that's all the vinegar this container is going to get. It's probably a little bit more than I actually need, but the reason I do 2 cups is because I would rather have a stronger glue and spend a little bit more money.
Understandable.
All right, so at this point we've filled the container. It's good to go. I like to give it a good shake, because as you saw when we were pouring dye into it, a clump got in there. So mixing it up like this just gets that dye spread out. You want to make sure that as much as you can, it's evenly dispersed. And then we start the dyeing process. So what we're doing now is I'm going to be separating in little humps here in the yarn. So when I'm pouring different colors into the basin, this hump is going to act as a barrier. So in this case with unicorn farts, pink is going to go up to here, yellow is going to go all the way here. They're going to meet at this hump, and you're going to see some blending, but it's how you keep some of that controlled coloration in the colorways. The other thing I want you to notice too is I'm leaving a lot of space open in this. This is called low immersion dyeing. And the point of low immersion dyeing is having control of those colors, whereas like if you do what's called high immersion dyeing, you're having more of like a watercolor effect. It's, less control of the colors, but a little bit more watercolor, and, it gets a little more flowy, and every color or skein looks a little different. There are some times you do want that, besides, of course, solids, but, there are some colors that we'll show you later on that you actually do want to do the watercolor effect.
Here we have Andrew prepping all the basins with water for the yarn, getting ready for the dye process. And we also see here the quick version of getting the dye ready.
So the next step in the process is the fun part. We actually get to add the dye. Now there's two ways to actually put the dye into the fibers, because if I just pour it on top, it's not actually going to seep very far through. In some cases that's okay. In some cases we want to dye both sides of it. In some cases, if I can, I want to try to avoid dyeing both sides. Now if we have to, we'll go back and we'll just touch up the other side. In this case, I'm going to try to avoid that. So the first way of doing it is using your tongs and just simply moving the yarn back and forth. So we would take it, just move it back and forth. I'm typically going to use the tongs to do something that's one-sided, and then I flip and do the other side. Now, the other way to do it, and this gives you a little bit more control of the fibers, I put on a glove, and there's a couple reasons for this. You don't want to get it in your hands. I get it on my hands all the time. It's not healthy for you. But you do want to try to get in there and really massage the dye through the fibers to actually get it in there and seep through. So you can see here, we're going to pour our pink first. This is like one of my favorite pinks. Let me move this out of our way. And we're just going to go ahead and pour. That's about right. Just get the first part through. We're going to use the full cup, so I use a cup for that. We're just going to keep pushing it, It's going to get through the first part. And this is why you're seeing the hump here again. See how it's preventing it from going through all the way, because I don't want it down here. Now, it might get some on the corners here. So you'll notice in some skeins, they typically have maybe a little bit longer streak of pink or something. Typically that just means that the skein itself was up against the edge or something of that sort. But we're going to go ahead and just keep massaging it. And then I'm happy to put in more dye because I have a feeling that as much as we put, it'll keep taking this one. Now, I have noticed in my dyeing experience that this particular pink is a pain in the touche and it will not completely absorb, which is why I specifically put the zip ties on this side so that when I lift it out of the water, the pink is going to take a minute to start drifting this way. Then when I start pulling this part out, this doesn't get affected by the pink. That's just something that I've learned over time while I've been dyeing, is that the colors that are harder to control, I typically put the zip ties on those sides. But we still have a little bit of pink, so we're just going to go ahead and pour the rest of that in there. And we'll start the next color. So again, our hump's keeping all that color in. We don't want anything to go beyond. If a little streak or something, like you can see it's happening a little bit here, but that's not a big deal. Now, yellow has to go first. So for this particular colorway, I just dye the whole base yellow. I'm going to shake my glove too a little bit. I have a tarp here on the floor. And what I'm going to do then is, since the pink was on my glove, I shaked it off a little bit just to make sure there's no pink in my glove before I start mixing on this side. And I'm just going to go in there, same thing, keep massaging it. If I get a little on the table, that's okay. It's never coming off, but that's the fun of it. And I want you to see in just a second here how these two colors blend. And so that's the point of the hump, is that the hump is allowing these colors to blend while not overtaking each other. And as I mentioned earlier, which might be later or earlier in this video, this particular color is recessive. So pink is going to easily dominate this color, and I'm aware of that having dyed for a while. So you'll see here on the hump, I can start to see it starting to mix. I'm okay at this point because it's a low immersion dyeing. I have a little bit more control. I'm okay at this point pushing that down. And now you're starting to see the orange. And that's because the yellow and the pink are mixing. And it's probably going to go a little, but not too much further because the pink's already been poured. It's already in its place. Last, we're going to go ahead and just add right on top of it. We're going to pour our stripes. And we're going to massage those in. Just get in there. And the whole point is I don't want the green to overtake the yellow either. It's going to shift. There's nothing I can do about it for this particular colorway, but that's how I designed it. And we're just going to massage that in there so that it gets into the under fibers. And there you have it. So now at this point, we just turn it on.
And then you heat it up to what? Is that a trade secret?
I just go max. It'll get there.
And how long do you keep it heated?
So it depends. If I feel as though maybe it needs a little bit more time to absorb, like so the pink is a color that doesn't absorb as nice, I might give it a little bit longer, but typically 7 minutes is a good time period. But in this case, since pink is involved in it, I'm probably going to give it 10 minutes or so, just to give it that extra time to absorb the color. And I need time for the oven, or the burner to heat up as well. So the burner's got to heat up, so it's probably going to get a couple extra minutes there too.
And then Andrew let me dye some. So here it goes. I hope I don't mess it up. All right, let's see here. I can hold this with my regular hand though,
Yep,
right?
you're going to use that whole container.
All right, and it just gets poured in here. Let's get that edge over here.
Perfect. And look at that. Your hump is doing its job.
Wow. And then I get to massage. Ooh, we're massaging the yarn.
Mm-hmm.
Should I add the
It's like
Waka
Wagyu.
movie? So just rubbing in, like moving it to get it underneath is basically what we're doing, right? Awesome.
You're improving the micron count.
Okay. And then
I'm kidding.
I don't know what that meant. All right. So then, should I start at the bottom?
Doesn't matter. You just want to start anywhere and just go ahead and just do. I do lines. That's easiest. Great. And you're going to use that whole container.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Woohoo!
And
Awesome.
same thing. Yep.
All right. Oh, there was a little bit of pink on my glove. Or maybe it leaked in.
That's all right. Won't kill no one. We hope.
So now you'll find people ordering it and going, I want the discount for the one that she messed up.
No, they got to pay extra.
All right, and then I have to kind of mush in the hump, right?
Yep, so you're going to just kind of massage that hump in, and that blends the colors.
Oh my goodness gracious, googly moogly. All right. Ooh-wee. Look at that.
And then last but not least, you're going to take the green. You're going to use about half of it, and you're just going to pour your stripes.
So like about right here and right here?
Yep. And that's the beauty of hand-dyed yarn, is it doesn't have to be exact. It's meant to be handcrafted.
True. More, less, good, bad?
Massage it in first,
All right.
and that'll give you an idea of how much more or less you need.
I think that line was good. This one might need more. Yeah. A little bit more on that one, you think?
Yep, go ahead.
Alrighty.
And you are now a professional hand dyer.
Woohoo! Holy moly.
We do have that color.
Ta-da!
Woo!
Awesome.
Check it out.
Ah, I love it. Phew, I didn't mess it up. Ooh, what's cooking, Andrew? Yarn is cooking, Karen.
Alrighty, so the next step of the process, we're going to take what's already cooked, put it up here on top of our pile. This needs to cool down before I flip them. I've burned myself enough time, so I don't want to do it again. But we're going to take what's here, we're going to put it up here, and we're going to go ahead and just let it cool for probably a good 15 to a half hour. Sometimes I let it go overnight if it's a color that doesn't absorb as well. So actually the pink, I might let it go overnight. We'll see. But I'm just going to shake off the excess water. When I lift the lid, I am careful to grab the corners here because I, again, have burnt myself enough times.
Being a movie theater manager in my past life. I've had burns of the popper. I understand.
And then there you are. And then, as you can see, we have our little tree of dye.
Woo! Nifty.
All right, so the next step to flip these yarns to check the bottoms, because we got to make sure that the entire skein is dyed, we're going to pull these out. Now, from experience, I know this pink is going to bleed everywhere. So my intention is pull up all these skeins right out of the water. I don't want them to touch. And boom, that's what we're looking for. This is incomplete dyed. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to transition these over. And I'm going to lay these down. I'm going to spread this out. Okay. We're going to lay these down, and I'm going to try to expose the best I can the undyed parts, because we're going to go back and touch up. So, that looks, there we go. You can see right there. And I did pretty good on the yellow. I'm not too worried about the yellow. Oh, there's a spot. And that's just making sure that we hit all the parts we have to hit. And what you could do, this is a personal opinion, you can go back and you can actually dye over with the same color, or what I typically will do is I will find the recessive color and I will dye with the recessive color because it's easily taken over. And that's all you gotta do.
That was low immersion. Now let's check out what happens with high immersion.
So this would be an example of where you do want the watercolor effect. So in this particular case, to kind of give you an idea, I only have 3 color dyes in here, but as you can see, it's adding colors by getting that watercolor effect. So I'm putting a blue in there. The blue is cascading into a green because in the center I have a larger patch of yellow. Now in my case, I've noticed that yellow is very recessive in the color wheel, so I tend to give yellow a little extra space compared to the others. We all need a little yellow in our lives. And then the last part here up at the top, you have the red, and of course the red is going to bleed into the yellow and create that orange kind of look for you. And every color is unique. You know, this is a very difficult process to control, and that's the point of high immersion dyeing, is that you don't have as much control, but you get more of like a watercolor effect to it. Alright, so once everything comes out of the oven and it's all said and done, we are done. This is completed yarn. It just needs to dry at this point. So I'm going to take the top off. Now this one came out last night, so you'll notice no steam. You can watch my fingers here and I'm not going to burn.
Ooh, wow.
Yep.
That's
and
beautiful.
So this is Celestial. And so once it's all said and done, that's what your speckles come out like.
Oh, wow. Nice.
And now what we do is we put this through the spin cycle just to get rid of the excess water. We let it dry for about 24 to 48 hours, depending on how wet it is. And you've got hand-dyed yarn. That's the end of the process. There's nothing else more to it other than knitting and enjoying it.
Which I like to do. So I'm glad to have you doing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And here's the finished product. You can buy yours at DachshundDaddyKnits.com. And thank you for supporting small business.